You move a big bag. Alrighty.
Good morning. Good morning. Yeah, there's a big difference in the screens.
Tolerate nothing.
Tolerate nothing, not even a cup.
What if you tolerated absolutely nothing in life? What if you tolerated nothing? What if I tolerated nothing?
Yeah. If I tolerated nothing, I'd spend less time building a case self-righteously about how the other is wrong.
Oh, that'd be so nice. I'd probably hear less complaints. You know, there's many ways to tolerate nothing. And
What if you tolerated nothing? How would that look? You're better at not tolerating, I think.
Yeah, I am. I'm very slow to go along with your complaints, for example. I mean, I could be like, oh, he's complaining. I'm just gonna do it. But I'll tend to wait until I'm agreeing to it, like I really feel like I want to do it. But yeah, I mean, it's a great inquiry. But I want to start off with an example. When I was a kid, my dad left home at 14. I had an older sister, a sister just younger than me, and then my mom and her female friends, and they're all loud. And my mom's really dominant personality, and she's really, at this point in her life, she's really raging against men and the patriarchy and everything. And yeah, I mean, I'm loud here. Let me just tell you, my mom is another level. You know my mom. But I can imagine her in a house with 6 teenagers and trying to run that thing. And there's no order, but everything's just on any momentary, just yelling out, and we're all yelling, but her method of control is just yelling back. And at some point, it got to be too much for me. Even imagine that.
Wow.
Imagine that.
That must be loud.
But I was definitely tolerating for years as a teenage boy. One day I came home from school, high school. I walk into her office. There's this really long conference table. And spread out across this conference table is all the contraband from my room. So she's gone through my room. There's porn magazines spread out. There's a case and a half of beer. There's it's like this book, kind of like a Bible or something, but it's cut out in the middle so I could hide something. I'd seen something on a movie or something like that, so I did it. So she'd gone through even that stuff, and then I was practicing writing in her handwriting, forging myself all these get out of school notes with her signature. There must have been dozens of these. And what else? Oh, and then posters of, beer, posters of half-naked girls. And she's just taken everything, she's laid it out, And
Laid it out on your bed or room?
No, on the conference table in her office. It's
to the principal's office.
Right. And then, one day I came home from school and I go to enter the house and she's like, no, let's go, get in the car. I was like, where are we going? She's like, get in the car. Like, where are we going? Get in the car.
Nice argument.
Yeah.
This is getting somewhere.
And she's a really dominant, personality. And, we kind of start walking towards the car. I can tell she's serious, but I want to know. And then she tells me, she's like, we're going to the psychiatrist's office. I'm like, what? Why? And we're going to psychiatrist's office. It's like this. And I'm like, no. And, but at this point, like, I'm maybe 16-ish, I'm starting to, like, fight back, and it started leading to, like, me leaving home, and, like, I'm not gonna tolerate it, and she's not gonna tolerate my whatever. But what I learned as a strategy early on was to not tolerate. You can just leave, just go. So I did. I left. I went to live with my uncle out west, and at some point I started being blamed for something that I was not guilty of, which was one of my complaints about my mom, was that I would be blamed for things I was not guilty of. What?
Some things I recognize.
No, you're guilty.
It's guilty until you prove differently, my son.
I actually do that intentionally as a way to get you. But so I go to live with my uncle, then I'm accused, and I refuse to tolerate it. So I go live with my grandfather in the next town over. And but this became kind of my default strategy in life. I'll just go, I'll just be free. So that's one big strategy.
Yes.
Right?
I just, as you see now, because I wanted to talk about no tolerating as a way to really start taking back the reins of your life, be the captain of your ship. And I realized that it's like boundary control. And you don't have to do anything because your boundaries are crossed all the time. And to stop tolerating that is a great way. You could just start there, And
it's really about self-respect.
Yes. And what I'm saying is it's a great tool because you will be attacked at some point. And
yeah, if you say, okay, from this point on, I'm not going to tolerate anything,
your life will change.
You will change.
Yes.
I realized
that the not tolerating has been a big part of me finding my way. It's not like I know my path and I'm carving. No, it's like, okay, not this, not tolerating this. Like I remember now this story after I came back studying from the States, and I went study, and then I went working 1 year or a couple of months for a minister in Belgium, and I was a sociologist, and it's great pay, it's great circuit, it's government, and I went to Brussels, and it's just not working basically, it's just incredible, and I could work from home most of the time, and
so you got a cush job paid for the government,
incredible,
can't be fired. You don't have to work.
Nothing.
That's not an incredible job.
Exactly.
Just mooching off the stage.
Exactly. and I had to do like 2 hours a day, something I wouldn't do if I didn't get paid. And I remember, like everyone would say, "Oh, it's a great job" or whatever, And I remember my body just revolting, like I can't.
Revolting.
Yeah, I can't do this. 2 hours of my day, something I wouldn't do if I didn't get paid. And it would be like, what I notice is a lot of people are tolerating that. They're tolerating that because of they don't like it.
Yes.
They don't want to do it, but they do it because of the pay, And it's like, they'd rather not do it. And I couldn't tolerate it. And I left the job, So, and that's a way for me forwards in many situations when it's like, no, I can't do it. I stop tolerating it. I go away.
Yes.
And then the path shows up,
And at kind of a higher level is to zone.
Yes.
It's not only am I not going to do anything that is suffering on some level. I'm only going to do what I really turned on by. It's even another level, but starting with no tolerating, at least that, even if you don't know what your desire is, you can take on both, but you can at least know what you're a no to.
Exactly.
What your body is saying no to.
Because there are many instances, where people cross your boundaries, where you're in a job you don't like it, in a relationship I gotta tolerate, I gotta tolerate her nagging, or I gotta whatever. You know, that's a great place to start.
Yes.
You know?
And we talk about compromise and inner conflict on previous episodes. And tolerating is a compromise.
Yes.
You know, it doesn't, you think about doing it and it's like, it doesn't feel good. You think about not doing it and you'll get in trouble or lose your job or something.
Right.
So you just do it, the thing that you don't want to. And then you excuse that by saying, well, it's a job, it's a good paying
Right.
job, or whatever. Meanwhile, so you have your job, but what gets compromised is your voice, your power,
Yes.
your honor, your peace of mind, your relationship with life and reality.
Self-respect.
Imagine you're becoming a complainer, a person who just accepts that life is suffering and that the world sucks and there's no options. I can't create. So let's talk about some options, some ways to deal with a situation where if you take on, no tolerating.
Right.
One is just go, right?
I really like the inner conflict here because I think it's very important. I remember asking men, where have you been compromising? And nobody, very few people would say I'm compromising. So we're not really aware. I think the no tolerating is
Yes.
we know the situations.
Tolerate nothing.
Yeah.
Yes.
We realize the situations where we're tolerating. And I think I tolerate, you know?
Yes.
And so the inner conflict that you say that is happening there's something I don't want to do. So I'm considering not doing it, and I'm considering doing it. If I don't do it, or if I do it, I will feel bad about myself. But if I don't do it, I'll get the consequences of being judged or being a bad boy or whatever.
Right. So
we choose to do it, even in because we don't want to be treated as a bad boy, let's say, and then we have to.
You don't want to have to deal with the conflict you might have to face with your boss, or
right.
So let's give an example of a relationship. All right. So guys complain that women nag too much. But this is something most men tolerate in a relationship, right? So they're doing something, and in the background there's someone complaining or telling them what to do or telling them how they're wrong or something like this. Most guys will tolerate it and then complain about their woman, which is disrespectful to her.
Tolerate and complain.
It's disrespectful to her, to themselves.
Right.
It's dishonoring. It takes the whole relationship down to a much lower level.
Yes.
So in that moment, they don't like it. They don't like the nagging, but they think about bringing it up with her, and they see, there'll be a fight. She'll get mad, blah, blah, blah. I don't want all that pain and drama and whatever. So they think about just tolerating it, and that sucks too. So either way they go, there's pain.
But there's a part
of it. And then what they do when they tolerate it is they say, well, the thing that'd be more painful is dealing with her about this. So I'll just go along with it, and I'll just do what she wants, and then they rationalize it.
But because part of it is that in our society, we see it. We don't necessarily see it as a bad thing to tolerate. We think in a way, in a relationship you have to compromise. You know, you have to tolerate.
This is our training to be good from very early on.
But
you don't want to sit in that school and learn what the teacher's talking about. Do it anyway.
Yes.
Right? Tolerate it. Be good. Like, this is what it is to be good, is to put up with bullshit. But to be great is to not put up with bullshit.
Yes. And it's not just how to be great for yourself. But what's important to me is to see that if you tolerate, if you compromise, and then complain about it. Like you said, first you tolerate the woman nagging, and then you complain, that woman. What you're doing is disrespecting not only yourself, but you disrespect her, and you bring the relationship down.
Yes.
It deteriorates.
Yes.
So the alternative is to not tolerate.
Yes.
And how do you do that? How do you not tolerate?
Yeah, to try to be a good boyfriend or husband, you tolerate it, and it takes it down, down, down,
Right.
down.
That's key.
To be great and have the relationship be great, you need to not tolerate.
Yes.
So let's talk about strategies for not tolerating.
Right.
One is leave, right? So in this situation, the guy could just leave the room,
Right.
leave the house, or leave the relationship, right? That's one
Yes.
strategy. What's another one?
Spanking. That's the one that comes to mind with me.
So which is a confrontation, and it's a way of standing up for yourself and training someone. Essentially, is what you're saying. Training someone to not do the behavior that you don't want.
Well, like I'm not necessarily thinking of the specific ways to do that, you know, although we can give it, but what I see as the key element in the not tolerating is to address it. You address it, you know, instead of like
Address it with the person.
you address it with the, yes, you bring it to the table, you address it, you go into what you're trying to avoid by tolerating, you know. You stop avoiding
which
the
is
issue.
a whole other can of worms, if
Yes.
you will, because if you've already been tolerating and then you notice you're tolerating,
Yes.
and you want to address it, you're going to do it from judgment,
Yes.
typically, because you're already judging that person. Okay, I've had enough. Now I'm going to address it, and it's a complaint,
Yes.
or it's a mumbling, blah 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 blah, or
Yes.
it's just inside of yourself.
Right.
It's a, so.
Well, what is a complaint to you? Because to me, a complaint is not necessarily bad. The complaint would be, we agreed that you would do dishes on Tuesday. It's Tuesday. You didn't do the dishes. I don't like it. That to me is a complaint.
Complaint is not being in your power as a creator. It's saying someone else is responsible for my pain right now, and I'm gonna bitch about it, basically. So,
We have
kids.
different definitions there. But
Kids will whine. I don't want to do it. Teenagers will bitch. So it's kind of more powerful. Yeah, fuck you, mom or dad. Like I don't want to do this, and then but they're still not in their power.
Right.
They're still not in their power. The next level is like, you're a creator. How can I lead this relationship to glory? In other words, I mean, saying, "Oh, you left your dishes in the sink" is one thing, but taking responsibility for how that conversation is going to go and how I'm going to feel about it and how it's going to uplevel
right.
our present and future is a whole other level.
So it's a
to me,
proactive creation, using that moment where you noticed, for example, you've been tolerating, or something bugs you, using that moment to rise up, and to be constructive about the relationship, to say, okay, I'm getting past this feeling of what I'm gonna use it to address the issue, and I'm gonna do it in such a way that we both can win. I like the phrase that you gotta give him a chance to win. When you give a complaint, you're like, nah, you don't give the other a chance to win.
Yes.
You're like, fuck you.
The best they can do is be less judged by you.
Yes.
Yes.
And so you can't win. So you got to give him a chance to win. So when you bring that, when you say, I'm not tolerating anything, the anger is a good thing, it's a good place to start, but do it in a way that you give the other a chance to win. And that's the tricky part, That's the tricky part.
In a way, not tolerating anything, I'm exploring this myself as I say this, but it might also mean not judging. Because if you've been tolerating and then you want to go bring a creative conversation,
Right.
you're going to have to deal with your judgment first.
Yes.
Because if you come and try to create from judgment,
Yes. That's tough.
it's not going to work.
Yeah.
It ends up backfiring. So this is where the honor work comes in, right? Creating is a possibility. Now, I like to think of it, the best thing to do is this is what I've learned, especially if it's a tight living quarters with your significant other or whatever.
Cabin fever in times of corona.
You don't try to create in the moment. You don't try to deal with it in the moment. Wait till your weekly meeting, wait till the time when you're both in the energy of like, okay, we're both present, we both love each other, how can we create something beautiful? And then you can, inside of that context, then you can bring up this thing that's happening that you don't like,
Right.
how can we make it great?
Right.
what most people do is they just bring their complaints all day long,
Yes.
or they tolerate all day long, which is, you know, you might not be complaining, but you're still tolerating.
Right. It's the
judging.
same energy.
Right.
Very interesting. But like, that's why it's so important to tolerate nothing.
Yes.
You know, really tolerate and be vigilant about it. Now, if you have been tolerating for a while, you know, what's interesting is because it's harder. Like it's harder then to change that around. But what if a man listening says, "Fuck, I've been tolerating too much." You know, how can that guy stop tolerating and be constructive about it? It seems like it's a bigger mountain.
This is a mountain, and this is what a lot of my work is about. You know, but it's because my kind of orientation in life is like I refuse to compromise. I refuse to tolerate. Essentially, that is something that I live by, and I'm either going to create, or at least I'm not going to put up with the bullshit, right? So if I'm going to do that, that means I have to find different solutions, different ways of dealing with conflicts than the person who is willing to tolerate in life. There's plenty of things, there's plenty of ways that things that people accept in life or tolerate. Plenty of solutions that are okay if you're okay to tolerate.
Right.
If you're not okay, if you say no compromise, no tolerating, you need a whole different set of tools.
And it's not easy because I think it's important to point out again how society trains us to tolerate, how a society in and of itself tolerates certain things, you know, that and so we're trained into tolerating and thinking it's a virtue in a way, you know. That's why it's so easy to tolerate for a man, because the tolerating part comes with less conflict than you may have. For example, like, fuck, I can't do this, I can't tolerate.
Yes.
Because on the other hand, you got society who's condoning it, who thinks it's a virtue and says that's a good thing.
Yeah, a guy, if you're one of the guys who says happy wife, happy life,
right,
this is a great sign that you're tolerating a lot.
Right.
A lot.
And
because basically what you're doing is you're saying, for her complaints or her nagging, I'm just going to do what she wants me to do.
Right.
I'm going to say, yes, dear. I'm going to be a good boy, basically.
Right. No, but it's telling. Because if society before was tolerating, let's say, violence of men towards women, you know, until the point where women could say, no more, we're stopping to tolerate this, you know, it's almost like at some point now that we as men, we're tolerating, let's say, the nagging. And it's not just your woman, you know, but there's a whole nagging going on towards masculinity, towards men, you know, and we're tolerating it with the happy wife, happy life.
And those guys are often using the same strategy with their kids. Their kids are upset. Let me conform my behavior so that my children are not upset. You know, oh, this is a miserable existence. Can you imagine? It's a miserable existence. Oh, my boss is upset at me. Let me be in the perfect way so that my boss is not upset at me.
I realize.
Oh, the government might be upset at me. Oh, let me conform my total behavior so that the government's not upset at me.
Man, if I see, like, for years I thought I don't like children, you know, because they're like louder. And then I realized what I really don't like is parents, and it's because of the tolerating. They tolerate the behavior, you know, and they don't address it. They don't take responsibility to address it, you know, and it's that like pisses me off.
Yes.
You know, and it's done. It's all around you.
Yes.
It's in airplanes. And you can see differences in certain societies.
You know, just to give this back to you, I think what I'm noticing about you is, because my experience of you is you have a lot of complaints, but I think what you have a lot of is tolerating.
Yes, I think I do.
Yes. And that's more what you don't like, is the tolerating, than the actual things that might bother you.
Because I'm like in a, when I'm on a plane, you know, and you got children, and you got parents not taking responsibility for their loud children, I'm constantly thinking of ways to address it, you know, and constantly thinking I'm an asshole. No, I should, you know, and it's incredible.
Yeah.
And how to do that, you know, how to do, like it's the same in a daily situation. We're living together, you know. How can I bring this in a constructive way, you know, that everyone benefits from it?
Yes. Well, let's talk about another non-tolerating approach. Another way to not tolerate. Another way to not tolerate is sacrifice. So, and as I define it, with sacrifice there is honor. So, to me, if honor is present, suffering is not present.
Yes.
Honor is, in a way, the opposite of suffering. Because you can be experiencing a lot of pain or physical suffering, but there can be great honor in it. There can be great honor in hard work.
Wow.
There can be great honor in giving up your life for your children. There can be great honor in any kind of pain.
Like the samurai would say, even the greatest honor is in serving and even dying for, not just for a lord, but a lord who's bad to you, one who not a good lord. You know, there's greater honor in that than in. Yeah, it's easy to be a samurai
Yes.
when you have a good lord. It's easy to serve.
Yes.
But imagine it's in the moment that you have a bad lord. That's when your real samurai mentality is tested and will show
Yes.
up. There's
And
more honor in
the
that.
distinction is
Wow.
the distinction is not in the behavior of serving
Yes.
the Lord.
Yes.
You're a master.
Great.
Because you can serve your master and be tolerant.
Exactly.
This
So
motherfucker.
what's the that's great.
Yes.
What did you say? The is not in the action?
Tolerating is, or no, the honor is not.
The honor is not in the action.
Right.
Where is it then? It's in the
Because you can be on the plane,
yes.
sacrificing or tolerating.
Yes.
Right. Suffering or
So is
in
it
honor.
is the honor in attitude in what's going on there?
It's in your stand.
Yes.
Right. So it's inside of yourself. It's how you're dealing with this inner conflict.
Uh-huh.
If you are dealing with the inner conflict with compromise and justifying being powerless about it,
Yes.
oh, that's misery. That's suffering. Sacrifice would be like, you know, you come home from work, your kids are running around the house, it's noisy, you're stressed, and you could sit there and inside you're complaining, oh, the kids, and you don't address it, and you're just tolerating and you're suffering, right? Or you could say, for example, and this is an inner thing, but you could still be sitting there saying nothing to the kids. You could sit there and say, get present to, these are my children, you know? Look at how much fun they're having and how they have been trapped inside forever in the face of me needing some time or some space. In this moment, I'm standing for them just having free reign and joy and just me creating a space where they can just play and have fun. And if you really do take a stand in that moment or make a sacrifice, your heart opens, you feel peace come over you. It's very clearly felt you are no longer suffering. And so it's the action. It's not about the action. It's about your orientation to the action. And it's not just a dialogue. It's not just something you say. You actually have to face the pain that you're feeling. You have to face the inner conflict.
Right.
Feel it, and then make some kind of a choice or a stand consciously in the face of that.
That's so powerful. That's the sacrifice. And I see like I've experienced it in bigger situations, like being judgmental towards someone and then taking a stand. But what I see now is like in very daily situations where I would go into tolerating, let's say, and then complaining or not, that doesn't even matter. Instead of doing that, say no tolerating. But the most powerful thing I see is, but make a stand and sacrifice. You know, so in that moment that I'm tolerating whatever behavior of you, say, to say no tolerating, stop, feel everything and then say make a stand. You know, that could help me to see what you're standing for. Like you said, the children stand for, you know, have joy, and see that, and then find a place to stand. And the test of it being going well or not would be the feeling of peace coming over me. Would be the feeling of honor. Would be the feeling of okay, a cleansing kind of thing. Yes. And I've experienced it. Yes. I've experienced it in larger things. But to be able to use that micro stance, so to speak.
Yes.
You know, I see the power of that.
Yeah, you know, you usually take a nap between this ritual and our next ritual. And at first you used to complain about, you know, that I'm making noise, you couldn't sleep or whatever. And then I realized this is a sacrifice I can make, because it was my time to like connect with my people. I want to speak to them. I want to use my voice, you know. I said, let me give this up for Hans so he can have his sleep. So for me, that's a sacrifice. So I'm no longer suffering around being quiet for you, you know. Whereas if it's just you're complaining about
what was going on in that situation? Did you see? Okay, so a big part of you being able to take that stand would have been realize how sacred the nap was to me. Is that correct?
It could be. It doesn't have to be. I could just say. I could also say. In the face of feeling like maybe resentment, you know, and I think I want to connect with my people, or in the face of feeling whatever, I want to be an example of being a leader who always creates in the situation. Or I could make it about you, right? Like I'm standing for Hans having this space to have perfect rest, just because it's beautiful, because it's a beautiful gift for a friend or an ally, or so that you can be more powerful and creative through the day, and this uplifts our alliance, right? Like it could be any number of things.
I love the standing for being a creator. Yeah, I see the power of it.
For example, I come home and, you know, I came home before you today, and I still had my wet swim trunks on, and water was through the house, which more than usual, because, and I didn't clean it up before you came home, and you did end up cleaning it up after you complained about it. You kind of, you could have in that moment taken it on as a challenge, right? To be the samurai, right?
Yeah, I see how you could sacrifice it and say, like, wow, I'm just seeing how I would deal with this differently in the moment. And I think it would be a combination of taking care of it, an awareness of my own tolerating and complaining, and becoming aware of it is all what I see right now. Making a stand, like say, in the face of all that, I'm the one standing for having a clean house, for example. I can make that stand. And what would help to me too is something like, I want to be constructive about it, which is, I'm going to deal with it now. I'm going to just do it, what's necessary, and I'll bring it up later, you know. That could be powerful. That would be my place to start, I think.
This is where it comes back to being an ally for me, you know, and a warrior and a creator. It's the whole wealth warrior orientation. Is if I'm not the one, like at the end of the day, if I can bring something to you, but if you don't up level, if you don't take it in and up level, this thing starts going down.
Right.
the alliance starts going downward. Because I'm like, well, he's not taking responsibility. And then, like, if I resent you about it, no, well, maybe I'll take less responsibility.
Yes.
Then the whole alliance starts going down the toilet, right? But if just one person will always be the one, no matter what, then the whole thing can go upwards.
Uh-huh.
And if you have two who are always the one, then it can even go to the next level. It's very exciting. And to me, I experienced such personal growth and transformation and increase in my personal power by taking on this way.
Oh, I see it's very liberating, to be free from tolerating, to be free from complaining, to be free from having a case towards someone.
Yes.
What I hear in it is like no tolerating, and that doesn't mean like don't accept it no more. Yes, but it means like for your own good, for the other's good, for the sake of your relationship, you have to stop tolerating.
Yes.
You have to stop tolerating and find a different way, a more constructive way, and you could do it by different things, by retracing, going away. But you could. The most powerful thing I see is to make a stand. To make a stand, and in that stand you can sacrifice something. You can stand for being constructive and finding a way to address it, and the power I see today is in the making a stand to stand for something, the power of sacrifice, and the power of standing for bringing it constructively, creatively, so the relationship can go up.
Yes. I look back. That was so much my orientation as a young person. Before I was 22, I'd had over 50 jobs because I would not tolerate any bullshit. I didn't have the power to speak really powerfully or to really be the creator or create win-win but I wouldn't take shit from any boss.
No, and that's what I see too. Like that has shown me the path. Like I also feel like there's a lot to learn there, to be in my power, to be more constructive, to be more creative. But the great place to start is to say no tolerating. Because you could do that. You could walk away. You could say no until here and no. And that's a great place to start. And with all the mistakes, and it's maybe not creative, not constructive. But that's a great place to start today, to say no tolerating. Nothing. Tolerate nothing is a great place to start taking charge of your life again.
And it's like if you are not choosing to be the ultimate leader and creator in your reality, there's always going to be something to complain about or to tolerate. But the moment that you commit yourself to be the one, like no one else needs to take responsibility, I'm going to do it, there's no longer anything to tolerate. It's so powerful.
I think it's a great test when you're going to live with your parents.
Yes, right. All right.
All right. See you tomorrow. Thank you for watching.